The view screen displayed the serene majesty of the Paulson Nebula, its violet and amber gases swirling in patterns that had fascinated Federation astrophysicists for decades. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood with his hands clasped behind his back on the bridge of the USS Enterprise D, watching the cosmic ballet with the quiet appreciation of a man who had spent a lifetime among the stars. His crew worked with practiced efficiency around him. The gentle hum of consoles, the soft chirp of sensor sweeps, the rhythmic pulse of the warp core 3 decks below. This was exploration at its finest. Peaceful, methodical, driven by nothing more than humanity's endless curiosity about the universe it inhabited. Then, reality tore itself apart. "Captain!" Lieutenant Worf's voice cut through the bridge, calm like a disruptor blast. "Subspace distortion off the port bow, reading massive energy discharge." The Enterprise shuddered. Not the familiar vibration of weapons impact or warp stress, but something fundamentally wrong, as if the fabric of space itself had hiccuped. Picard gripped his command chair as alarms shrieked across the bridge. On the view screen, a jagged wound of impossible colors split the darkness. Electric blue crackling against angry crimson, geometric patterns that hurt to perceive directly. "Shields up. Evasive maneuvers," Picard commanded, but the rift was already collapsing inward, and 2 objects shot through the closing aperture like bullets from a chamber. One was humanoid, red and gold, tumbling through space in a powered suit that glowed with its own internal light. The other was smaller, blue and red, limbs flailing as explosive decompression tried to claim him. The rift snapped shut with a flash that left after-images dancing across the view screen. 2 humanoid life signs, Captain. Data reported from Ops, his golden eyes fixed on his console with android precision. However, their biosignatures do not match any known species in our database. One appears to be wearing a sophisticated exosuit generating its own life support. The other, Data's head tilted with curiosity. The other is experiencing rapid oxygen deprivation. "Transporter room, emergency beam out," Picard ordered. "Lock onto both targets. Get them to sickbay immediately." "Aye, sir." Energizing. The golden shimmer of the transporter claimed both figures from the void. Picard exhaled slowly, allowing himself a moment to process what had just occurred. And in his years commanding the Enterprise, he had encountered dimensional rifts, temporal anomalies, and beings who claimed godhood. But something about this felt different. Those 2 figures, tumbling through space in the aftermath of what appeared to be a catastrophic accident. They hadn't seemed alien. They had seemed human. "Mr. Data, full analysis of that subspace distortion. I want to know what opened it and why. Mr. LaForge, check our warp field integrity. Counselor Troy." He turned to the Betazoid woman at his side. "What did you sense?" Deanna Troy's dark eyes were troubled. "Confusion, Captain. Terror. And something else. Guilt. One of them blames himself for what happened." In sickbay, Dr. Beverly Crusher worked with swift competence as 2 bodies materialized on her biobeds. The one in armor was already moving. Repulsors in his palms flaring to life as he jerked upright in defensive posture. The other lay still, his chest not rising. "He's not breathing," Crusher shouted, scanning the younger one with her medical tricorder. "Oxygen deprivation, possible lung damage from vacuum exposure." The armored figure's faceplate snapped up, revealing a man in his early 40s with a goatee and wild eyes. "Peter!" Tony Stark lunged from the biobed, his armor systems screaming proximity warnings about unfamiliar technology. No, kid, come on." "Step back," Crusher commanded with the authority of someone who had faced down admirals. Her hands moved across the biobed controls, flooding the younger man's lungs with oxygenated compounds, while a cortical stimulator jump-started his autonomic functions. The kid, because he couldn't be more than 22, convulsed once, twice, then gasped like a drowning man breaking the surface. His eyes flew open, brown and panicked behind a domino mask that covered his upper face. Mr. Stark, the rift. Your calibrations were... He coughed violently, then his head whipped around, taking in the unfamiliar sickbay with mounting alarm. Where are we? What is this place? Why does everything look like a hotel from the future? That's what I'd like to know, Tony said, his armor's HUD analyzing everything in sight, while Friday whispered warnings about unknown energy signatures. His arc reactor pulsed with blue light beneath the nanotech. Friday, location. Unable to establish satellite connection, boss. No GPS, no cellular, no wireless networks of any kind. Wherever we are, we're way off the grid. Beverly Crusher stepped between them and her medical equipment with a doctor's protective instinct. I'm Dr. Beverly Crusher, Chief Medical Officer of the USS Enterprise. You're in our sickbay. You were pulled aboard from space after emerging from what appeared to be a dimensional rift. Now, I need you both to remain calm while I complete my scans. You, she pointed at Peter, just experienced severe hypoxia. You're lucky to be alive. USS Enterprise? Peter's voice cracked. Like the aircraft carrier? But you said space, and this is... His spider sense tingled faintly. Not danger exactly, but alertness. Everything here felt wrong in a way he couldn't articulate. The technology was sleeker than anything Stark Industries had produced. The doctor's uniform looked military, but oddly civilian. And that device she'd waved over him, it had diagnosed him in seconds without touching him. The sickbay doors hissed open. Captain Picard entered with Worf at his side, the Klingon security chief's hand resting meaningfully on his phaser. Picard's eyes took in the scene with practiced assessment. The young man on the biobed, maskless now that Crusher had removed it for treatment, revealing a face too young for the fear in his eyes. The older man in sophisticated armor, defensive posture, weapons systems clearly active. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. His voice carried the weight of command, softened by diplomatic warmth. You are currently in Federation space, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. I understand this must be disorienting, but I assure you, you are safe here. We intend you no harm. Tony's HUD flickered with impossible data. Starship, Federation, 47 light-years from Earth. Friday, please tell me I'm hallucinating from hypoxia too. Negative, boss. All sensor data confirms we're actually in the observation lounge adjacent to the bridge had become an impromptu first contact scenario. Though Picard suspected neither party had anticipated quite this sort of cultural exchange. The long conference table seated his senior staff on one side. Data, Geordi LaForge, Worf, Deanna Troi, and Dr. Crusher. While Peter Parker and Tony Stark occupied the opposite side. Through the viewport behind them, stars streaked past at Warp 6, a constant reminder that they were moving through space at velocities that, according to Tony's muttered calculations, should be physically impossible. Impossible by your universe's physics, Data corrected politely. The android sat with perfect posture, his golden eyes studying Tony's armor with unconcealed fascination. However, in our reality, the manipulation of subspace fields allows for faster-than-light travel without violating relativistic constraints. The principles were established by Zephram Cochrane in Trinidad 63. Tony leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. His armor had retracted to a less threatening configuration, more business suit than weapons system. But the arc reactor still glowed beneath his shirt. Right, subspace. Which is what exactly? Some kind of parallel dimensional layer that lets you cheat Einstein? In essence, yes. Geordie LaForge smiled, his visor scanning the armor's energy signatures with interest. The chief engineer was a man who appreciated good design when he saw it. And despite its relative primitiveness, Stark's technology showed remarkable innovation. Though cheat isn't quite accurate. We're working within physical laws, just not the ones you're familiar with. Your arc reactor, though, that's fascinating. Sustained fusion reaction in a container that size? We use antimatter for power generation, but the engineering on that is really impressive for your tech level. For my tech level, Tony repeated flatly. You know, normally when someone compliments my engineering, there isn't a qualifier about how primitive it is. Peter, who had been quietly marveling at everything in the room, the smooth touch interfaces, the casual way everyone discussed faster-than-light travel, the fact that an actual android was sitting across from him, put a hand on Tony's arm. Mr. Stark, I don't think he meant it as an insult. I think he's genuinely impressed. He turned to Geordie. The arc reactor powers his entire armor system: flight, weapons, shields, life support. It's completely self-contained, and it replaced the shrapnel in his chest that would have killed him. Crusher's medical instincts immediately activated. You have shrapnel near your heart? Mr. Stark, that's incredibly dangerous. We could remove it in a matter of hours with a simple surgical procedure. Thanks, but no thanks, Doc. Tony's hand moved unconsciously to his chest. The arc reactor and I have been through a lot together. It's more than just a pacemaker. It's a reminder. Picard watched this exchange with growing understanding. The armor wasn't just technology, it was identity. He'd seen that before, though usually with cultures that define themselves through ritual combat or spiritual practices. Mr. Stark, no one here will force medical treatment upon you. However, I would appreciate understanding more about how you and Mr. Biwatordi Parker came to be as you are. You mentioned you were superheroes. That term suggests a societal role that doesn't exist in the Federation. That's because your society doesn't need them, Peter said quietly. He'd been processing everything since they'd entered the observation lounge. The crew's uniforms were utilitarian, but dignified. No one carried visible weapons except the Klingon. Worf, they'd said his name was. And even he seemed more concerned with protocol than threat assessment. Everyone spoke to each other with casual respect, regardless of rank. You've solved war, poverty, disease. You explore space peacefully. You don't need people in masks fighting crime because you've eliminated most of the causes of crime. Troy's empathic senses picked up the complex wash of emotions from the young man. Awe, certainly, but also a strange melancholy. You sound as if that saddens you, Mr. Parker. No, it's amazing. It's what we've always hoped humanity could become. Peter's hands gestured unconsciously as he spoke, a habit that made him seem even younger. It's just, in our time, our Earth, we're still fighting, still struggling. I got my powers from a radioactive spider bite when I was 15. Enhanced strength, agility, this precognitive danger sense, ability to cling to surfaces. And I use them to stop muggers and bank robbers and sometimes alien invasions because someone has to. With great power comes great responsibility. That's what my Uncle Ben taught me before he died. Before I failed to save him. The observation lounge was silent for a moment. Picard recognized the guilt in the young man's voice. the weight of responsibility carried by someone far too young to bear it alone. It reminded him of Wesley, of every young officer who had ever served under his command, and learned too quickly that the universe could be cruel. In our society, Picard said gently, that responsibility is shared among all citizens. No individual bears the burden of protecting others alone. Starfleet exists as an exploration and defense organization. But we operate within the framework of Federation law and civilian oversight. We are not heroes set apart. We are public servants. Must be nice, Tony muttered. In our world, I announced I am Iron Man at a press conference, and suddenly I was responsible for everything from terrorist attacks to stock market fluctuations. The government wanted my tech. My competitors wanted my tech. Every supervillain on the planet wanted to prove they could take down Tony Stark. His jaw tightened. So, yeah, Captain, I've got some experience with bearing burdens alone. Data tilted his head, processing. Yet, you are here together. Mr. Parker referred to you as Mr. Stark, with clear deference, but also attempted to restrain your argumentative impulses. This suggests a mentor-protege relationship, built on mutual respect despite significant personality differences. Fascinating. I'm not argumentative, I'm accurate, Tony said. You're definitely argumentative, Peter countered. But yeah, Mr. Stark's he's been there for me. After my last mentor died, after everything with Thanos, which is a really long story involving an alien warlord, Infinity Stones, and half the universe getting dusted for 5 years, Mr. Stark's kind of been the person I look up to, even when he's being impossible. The feeling's mutual, kid. Tony's voice was gruffer than he'd intended, though I'm not sure mentor is the right word. More like fellow disaster trying to keep you from making the same mistakes I did. Worf had been silent throughout this exchange, but now he spoke, his deep voice rumbling with tactical consideration. Captain, these enhanced abilities they describe, they represent significant combat potential. If they were hostile, they could pose a considerable threat to ship security. Mr. Parker claims strength sufficient to breach bulkheads. Mr. Stark's armor contains weapon systems, which I'm not going to use, Tony said quickly. Look, I get it. You've got protocols for first contact, assessment procedures, all that. We're unknown quantities, possibly dangerous. But Friday's been analyzing your ship, non-intrusively, just passive scans. And let me be clear, we're not a threat to you. Your shields could probably shrug off everything I've got. The guest quarters were, by any reasonable standard, nicer than most hotels Tony had stayed in. 2 separate rooms connected by a shared living area, each with a bed workspace and something called a sonic shower, that Peter had already declared the greatest invention in human history. The replicator, a device that could apparently materialize any object or food from pure energy, sat in the living area like a shrine to post-scarcity economics. Tony stood in front of it now, his hand hovering over the interface, wrestling with a concept that was fundamentally breaking his brain. Computer, he said carefully. 1 cup of coffee, black, nothing fancy. The replicator hummed. Golden light coalesced, matter forming from energy according to patterns stored in some vast database. Within seconds, a steaming cup of coffee materialized on the platform. Tony picked it up, sniffed it, took a sip. It was perfect. Rich, hot, exactly the temperature he preferred. And it had cost exactly nothing. No beans to grow, No workers to pay, no logistics chains stretching across continents. Just energy converted to matter, courtesy of technology so advanced and widespread that it had eliminated scarcity itself. "This is a nightmare," Tony muttered. "Really?" Peter emerged from his room wearing civilian clothes they'd replicated earlier. Jeans, a t-shirt with a band logo Tony didn't recognize, sneakers. The kid looked impossibly young without his Spider-Man suit. "Because I just took a shower where sound waves cleaned me without using any water. And I'm pretty sure I'm in love with the 24th century." "That's because you're 22 and easily impressed by shiny objects. I'm 23, and also, you literally make shiny objects for a living. You're just upset because the replicator makes your entire manufacturing process obsolete." Tony took another sip of coffee, rather than admit Peter was absolutely right. Friday analysis. The replicator operates on matter-energy conversion principles similar to the transporters, boss. It's reading molecular patterns from a database and assembling them atom by atom. The energy requirements are substantial, but the ship's antimatter reactor produces more than enough power. Coffee, a steak dinner, or a spare dilithium crystal, all the same process, just different complexity levels. So you're telling me that in this century, I could replicate an arc reactor? Theoretically, yes, though the computer would need the pattern first, and there are some limitations on complex technology. Replicators can't create living tissue or antimatter, and certain substances are restricted. But basic mechanical systems, absolutely. Tony set the coffee down harder than necessary. Do you understand what this means? Stark Industries' entire business model, manufacturing, R&D, production, it's irrelevant here. They don't need better tech because they can just replicate whatever they need. There's no market, no competition, no drive for innovation beyond pure curiosity. Is that such a bad thing? Peter perched on the couch, his spider sense still tingling faintly with that sense of dimensional wrongness. Mr. Stark, think about it. No one goes hungry because they can't afford food. No one dies because they can't pay for medicine. People invent things because they want to, because they're curious, not because they need to turn a profit. Isn't that kind of amazing? It's unsustainable. It's been sustaining for over 200 years. Captain Picard said the Federation has over 150 member worlds, billions of people, and they've made it work. Tony paced, his mind racing through economic models, social structures, everything he'd built his worldview on. But what drives them? If there's no reward, no recognition, no meaning. The voice came from the door. Counselor Troy stood there with a gentle smile, having apparently decided to check on them. Peter's spider sense had noticed her approach, but hadn't registered her as a threat. "May I come in?" "It's your ship," Tony said, but gestured to a chair. "Come to analyze the primitive capitalist?" Troy's smile didn't waver as she entered, sitting with practiced grace. "I came to see how you were adjusting. But since you ask, Mr. Stark, you're struggling with the concept that your wealth and accomplishments don't matter here. That's understandable. Where you come from, material success is a measure of worth. Here, it isn't." "So what is?" Tony challenged. "What replaces ambition? What pushes people to be better if there's no competition, no stakes, no reason to excel?" "The desire to excel itself." Troy's dark eyes were kind but unflinching. People still create, explore, discover, but they do it for the inherent satisfaction of the work, not for external validation. Captain Picard studied archaeology because he loves ancient civilizations, not because it would make him rich. Geordi became an engineer because he's passionate about technology, not for fame. Data pursues humanity because he finds it meaningful, not because he expects reward. Peter nodded enthusiastically. It's like being Spider-Man. I don't save people because I get paid. I definitely don't get paid, which is why my apartment is terrible. But I do it because it's the right thing to do. Because I can help. The helping is the point. Yes, Troy said. Exactly. And Mr. Stark, I sense you understand this more than you are admitting. You became Iron Man not for profit. You were already wealthy. You did it because you saw a problem you could solve. Because you felt responsible. That drive doesn't disappear in the Federation. It simply exists without the distortion of economic necessity. Tony sat down heavily, armor retracting further until he was just a man in a shirt with a glowing circle in his chest. In my world, I announced I was Iron Man, and immediately the government tried to nationalize my technology. I fought off corporate espionage, hostile takeovers, and supervillains who wanted to steal my designs. The arc reactor alone could solve global energy problems, but if I just gave it away, it would end up in the wrong hands. Weapons, bombs, worse. So I keep it proprietary. I control who uses it. I maintain the monopoly because the alternative is chaos. Here, Troy said softly. You could give it away. The Federation has protocols for integrating new technology safely. No one would weaponize it because we don't manufacture weapons for profit. No corporation would steal it because corporations as you know them don't exist. Your fear of the technology being misused, it's based on a world that no longer exists in this century. Lucky them, Tony said bitterly. Then he caught himself, shook his head. I'm sorry. That was unfair. You've been nothing but kind, and I'm sitting here complaining about a literal utopia because it makes me feel obsolete. You're not obsolete, Peter insisted. Mr. Stark, you're still you. The armor, the arc reactor, the genius, that's all still yours. It's just that here, those things don't have to define your entire existence. You can be Tony Stark, the engineer who loves building things, not Tony Stark, the arms dealer turned superhero who has to save the world because no one else can. Troy nodded. You've carried enormous burdens, both of you. The empathic impression I get from Mr. Stark is exhaustion layered over guilt, layered over determination. From you, Mr. Parker, grief and responsibility that would break most people your age. You've defined yourselves by what you must do. Here, perhaps, you can explore who you want to be. Tony opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, because she was right. Since Afghanistan, since the cave, since the moment he'd built the first arc reactor from scraps to keep himself alive, he'd been defined by necessity. Survive, protect, innovate, save. The burden of being the only one who could, the only one smart enough, rich enough, reckless enough to make the hard calls. And Peter, God, Peter had been 15 when the spider bit him. Had spent 7 years fighting crime in Queens, facing down the Vulture, Mysterio, dealing with the blip, losing people. The kid had never had a chance to just be a kid. I can sense your resistance to this idea, Troy continued gently. Accepting help, accepting that you don't have to carry everything alone, it feels like weakness to both of you. But it isn't. It's the foundation of how the Federation functions. Collaborative effort, shared responsibility, mutual support. Sounds exhausting in a different way, Tony said. But there was less edge to it. I'm not exactly a team player, counselor. Ask anyone who's worked with the Avengers. The Avengers? Troy's curiosity was evident. Peter lit up. Earth's mightiest heroes. We've got, have, gods, super soldiers, spies, scientists. a guy who turns into a giant green rage monster. We saved the world from alien invasions, robot uprisings, magical threats. Mr. Stark was one of the founders. He fought Thanos. His voice caught. He saved the universe. At considerable personal cost, Troy observed, reading the guilt that flashed across Peter's face. Something you blame yourself for, Mr. Parker. I couldn't save him, Peter said quietly. During the battle, I tried to help, but it wasn't enough. Mr. Stark, a different Mr. Stark, an older version. He used the Infinity Stones, and it killed him. I held him while he died, and I couldn't do anything. Tony's hand found Peter's shoulder, gripping it firmly. Kid, that wasn't this timeline. That version of me made his choice. Sounds like he did it to protect you and everyone else. That's not your burden to carry. Says the man who carries everyone else's burdens. Peter shot back, but he was smiling through threatening tears. Troy watched this exchange with professional interest and personal warmth. You've both experienced significant trauma. Loss, sacrifice, impossible choices. In the Federation, we have extensive counseling services, support systems for people dealing with what you've endured. While you're here, I'd be happy to provide those services if you're interested. Therapy from an empath, Tony said. That's either incredibly efficient or terrifyingly invasive. I don't read minds, Mr. Stark. I sense emotions, but I never probe without consent. Think of me as someone who can help you understand what you're feeling when you're too stubborn to admit it to yourself. Ooh, she's got your number already, Peter said. Kid, whose side are you on? The side that thinks maybe talking to someone about our feelings isn't the worst idea, considering we're stuck in the future and freaking out about it. The arc reactor is essentially a miniaturized tokamak, Tony explained, his hands gesturing as he spoke, the familiar rhythm of engineering discussion settling over him like a comfortable coat. He'd pulled up holographic schematics from Friday's database, projecting them over one of engineering's diagnostic tables. Palladium core. Well, it was palladium until I synthesized a new element based on my father's notes, which is a whole other story involving daddy issues and quantum mechanics. The repulsor technology field keeps the plasma stable, while the reaction produces clean, sustainable energy. Geordi studied the schematics with genuine fascination, his visor allowing him to see the energy signatures in ways Tony's HUD could only approximate. The elegance is impressive. You're working within significant constraints: size, weight, power output, and you've optimized for all three. But here's what's interesting. You're still thinking in terms of scarcity. The reactor produces just enough energy for your armor's needs with minimal reserve capacity. You've designed for efficiency because in your time, waste is expensive. Waste is always expensive, Tony countered. Not here. Geordi pulled up a schematic of the Enterprise's power distribution network. Our antimatter reactor produces terawatts of power. The ship uses what it needs: propulsion, life support, weapons, shields, holodecks, replicators, and the rest is simply dissipated or stored. We don't design for minimal viability. We design for abundant capacity because energy is, essentially, unlimited. Tony stared at the power curves. That's completely backwards from everything I've been taught. Every engineer knows you optimize for efficiency first. In a scarcity economy, yes. In post-scarcity, you optimize for reliability and redundancy instead. We have 3 backup power systems, emergency batteries that could run the ship for weeks, and portable generators that can replicate more generators. Geordie's smile was visible, even behind the visor. It's a different paradigm entirely. Across the room, Peter was having his own revelation. Data had set up a series of tests to measure his spider sense, using controlled stimuli to trigger the precognitive response. Currently, a holographic training drone was attempting to surprise him, while sensors measured his neural activity. Fascinating, Data observed as Peter dodged a simulated attack he couldn't possibly have seen coming. Your reaction time suggests you are perceiving the threat approximately 0.7 seconds before it occurs. This is consistent with closed, time-like curves in quantum mechanics. Your consciousness is receiving information from your own immediate future. I always thought it was more like, I don't know, super fast reflexes? Peter caught the drone as it dove at him again, his enhanced strength crumpling the holographic construct. Oh, sorry. Was that expensive? It is a hologram, Mr. Parker. Turning it off and on costs nothing. Data reset the simulation. However, your description of super-fast reflexes may be partially accurate. It is possible your enhanced neural pathways simply process threat assessment at accelerated rates, creating the illusion of precognition. The distinction between prediction and precognition is quite subtle. Great. So I either have actual future sight or just really good anxiety, Peter quipped. Either way, it keeps me alive, so I'm not complaining. Lieutenant Worf approached from where he'd been observing from a respectful distance, his arms crossed over his broad chest. Your combat abilities, you have been trained? Sort of. I mostly learned by doing. Lots of trial and error. Mostly error in the early days. I got better after Mr. Stark gave me the upgraded suit with Friday's tactical assistance. Peter demonstrated a flip that carried him effortlessly over Data's head, landing in a continue perfect crouch. The spider powers give me the physical capability, but the skill part? That's just practice and not dying. Worf's expression suggested this was both impressive and concerning. Instinctive combat prowess. Among Klingons, such warriors are highly valued. But without proper training, such abilities can be chaotic. Story of my life, Peter agreed cheerfully. Mr. Stark calls me the friendly neighborhood chaos agent. I call you a liability with good intentions. Tony called from across engineering, not looking up from his discussion with Geordie. There's a difference. See? He loves me. Data tilted his head, processing the interaction. Your relationship appears antagonistic on the surface. Yet Mr. Stark's emotional investment in your well-being is evident in both verbal and nonverbal communication. He attempts to mask his affection with sarcasm, a common human defense mechanism. Data, buddy, you're not supposed to say that part out loud, Peter said, but he was grinning. The android blinked. Have I committed a social error? I am still learning the nuances of human interaction. Nah, you're good. Actually, you're really perceptive. Most people don't pick up on the fact that Mr. Stark cares. He's kind of got this whole emotionally constipated genius thing going on. I can still hear you, Parker, Tony shouted. I know. That's why I said it loud enough. Geordie laughed, the sound warm and genuine. You two remind me of Captain Picard and Wesley Crusher, back when Wesley was an ensign. The captain tried so hard to maintain professional distance, but anyone with eyes could see he cared about the kid. Tony finally looked up from the schematics, something uncomfortable flickering across his face. We're not... He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. Look, the kid's got potential. Someone has to make sure he doesn't waste it by getting himself killed doing something stupid and heroic. That's not affection, that's quality control. Right, Geordi said, utterly unconvinced. Quality control. Got it. I saved the universe, and he's still mad I didn't call for backup first. Peter Stage whispered to Data. In his defense, Data replied seriously, dying to save the universe is statistically the least efficient method of salvation. Better planning might have achieved the same result with lower mortality rates. Thank you, Data, Tony said. Finally, someone who understands resource management. The comm system chirped. Bridge to engineering. Commander LaForge, we're approaching the neutral zone. Captain Picard requests that our guests join him on the bridge for the transit. Geordi tapped his comm badge. Acknowledged. We'll be right up. He turned to Tony and Peter. The Romulan neutral zone. It's a border region between Federation space and the Romulan Star Empire. We're not expecting trouble, but the captain thought you might appreciate seeing how we handle diplomatic boundaries. Romulans, Peter said. Those are the ones with the pointy ears and the bad attitudes, right? Or wait, that's Vulcans. Or both? Mr. Stark, did you study up on Trek lore when I wasn't looking? Friday gave me a database dump while you were geeking out over the warp core, Tony admitted. Romulans are Vulcans who didn't embrace logic, left their homeworld, built an empire based on secrecy and military power. They've got cloaking technology, use paranoia as foreign policy, and their intelligence agency makes S.H.I.E.L.D. look friendly. An adequate summary, Worf rumbled. Though it lacks appropriate respect for their tactical capabilities. The Romulans are formidable opponents. Underestimating them is fatal. Noted. Friday, upgrade Romulan threat assessment to formidable. Already done, boss. Also noting that their fashion sense is apparently aggressive shoulder pads and ominous lighting. They took the turbo lift to the bridge, Data explaining the significance of the neutral zone along the way. It was established by treaty after significant conflict between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire. Neither side may enter without risking war. We maintain sensor outposts along the border, but actual crossings require careful diplomatic protocols. So, it's like the DMZ between North and South Korea, Peter said. A buffer zone to prevent accidental war. Precisely. Though I confess I am unfamiliar with those specific Earth nations from your time period. Actually, that's probably too much 20th century geopolitics for a turbolift ride. The bridge doors hissed open. Captain Picard sat in his command chair, Riker beside him, the view screen displaying the distorted star field that marked their proximity to the neutral zone. Deanna Troi occupied her seat. Her empathic senses undoubtedly stretched toward the border ahead. Mr. Stark, Mr. Parker. Picard greeted them. Welcome to the bridge. Please, observe from the aft stations. This should be routine, but I thought you might appreciate seeing how the Federation manages peaceful coexistence with potential adversaries. Tony and Peter moved to the indicated positions, careful not to interfere with the working crew. From here, they had a perfect view of the entire bridge. The efficiency, the quiet professionalism, the way information flowed seamlessly between stations. Entering the neutral zone in 30 seconds, the helm officer reported. Reduce speed to 1/4 impulse. Activate all sensor arrays. Open a channel to the nearest Federation outpost. Channel open, sir. Outpost Sierra 6. This is the Enterprise. We are transiting the neutral zone en route to Starbase 234. Transmitting our flight plan and diplomatic credentials now. Acknowledged, Enterprise. Your credentials check out. Be advised. We've detected increased Romulan patrol activity in your sector. Recommend heightened alert status. Picard's expression didn't change, but Tony noticed the way his hand tightened slightly on the armrest. Understood, Sierra 6. Enterprise out. He turned to Worf. Yellow alert. Tactical, keep long-range sensors active. I want to know if any Romulan vessel comes within 50,000 kilometers. Aye, sir, Worf said, his fingers dancing across the tactical console. The Enterprise crossed the invisible line that marked the neutral zone. On the view screen, space looked identical. Stars, darkness, the infinite void. But Tony's arc reactors seemed to pulse in sync with his elevated heart rate. This was a border between civilizations, maintained not by walls or weapons, but by mutual agreement and the threat of mutually assured destruction. It's so peaceful, Peter whispered. You'd never know two empires could go to war over this space. That's the point, Riker said quietly from the command chair. The neutral zone isn't just a boundary, it's a promise. We stay out, they stay out, and neither side has to test whether they'd win the resulting war. What about trade? Tony asked. Cultural exchange? In my world, even hostile nations usually have some kind of diplomatic relationship. The Romulans severed official contact decades ago, Picard explained. They're isolationist by nature, viewing other species with suspicion at best, hostility at worst. We've had limited encounters, some positive, most adversarial. But we maintain the neutral zone because the alternative is conflict neither side wants. Sensors detecting a vessel, Worf announced. Configuration consistent with a Romulan warbird. Distance 80,000 kilometers. They're maintaining position just inside their border. On screen? The view screen shifted. In the distance, barely visible, a predatory shape hung in space. The warbird's silhouette reminded Tony uncomfortably of a bird of prey preparing to strike. All sharp angles and implied violence. They're watching us, Troy said, her empathic senses reading the distant vessel. Curiosity and suspicion. They're wondering why we're here. Standard patrol behavior, Picard said calmly. They have as much right to monitor their border as we do. Helm, maintain current course and speed. Tactical, no active scans of the Romulan vessel. We're simply passing through. The next 15 minutes were among the most tense Tony had experienced, without actual combat occurring. The Enterprise glided through the neutral zone at a pace that felt agonizingly slow, while the Romulan warbird shadowed them from a distance. No weapons were fired, no shields were raised beyond standard readiness. And yet the potential for violence hung in the air like a held breath. Mr. Stark, Picard said quietly, not taking his eyes from the view screen. In your time, how do nations handle such boundaries? Tony considered. Badly, usually. Border disputes turn into skirmishes. Skirmishes turn into wars. Even when treaties exist, there's always someone willing to break them for advantage. Trust is rare, and it's fragile. And yet, here we are, Picard said. The Federation and the Romulan Empire have maintained this imperfect peace for decades. Not because we trust each other, but because we've both decided that the alternative is worse. It's not ideal. It requires constant vigilance, careful diplomacy, and the willingness to show restraint when provocation occurs. But it works. Approaching the far boundary of the neutral zone, the helm reported. The warbird is maintaining its position, Worf confirmed. The science lab on Deck 8 had been converted into something between a medical bay and a physics laboratory. Dr. Crusher worked alongside Data, their combined expertise focused on understanding Peter Parker's spider sense through every analytical tool at the Federation's disposal. Peter sat on a diagnostic platform, electrodes attached to his temples, while holographic displays showed his neural patterns in real time. Try to relax, Mr. Parker, Crusher said, adjusting her tricorder. We're going to run another series of surprise stimuli. Data will coordinate the attacks while I monitor your brain activity. Attacks is a strong word, Peter said nervously. Can we call them aggressive friendliness? If it helps you relax, certainly. Crusher smiled, but her medical focus was absolute. Commander Data, begin sequence 7. Data's fingers moved across the console. Throughout the lab, hidden emitters activated. A holographic projectile materialized behind Peter's head, silent, invisible to normal senses. His spider sense screamed. Peter's hand shot up, catching the hologram before it could strike him, his body moving before conscious thought. Remarkable, Data said, watching the neural scans. Your hippocampus and amygdala show activity spikes 0.8 seconds before the stimulus. However, the pattern is unlike typical fear responses. It is more akin to spatial awareness processing, but temporally inverted. In English, Data? Peter asked, still holding the holographic projectile. Your brain appears to be receiving information from your immediate future self through a quantum entanglement effect. In essence, the you of 0.8 seconds from now is sending danger information backward in time to the present you. The mechanism is theoretically consistent with closed, time-like curves, though I have never observed it in a biological system. Crusher was equally fascinated. The energy expenditure should be enormous. Quantum effects at macroscopic scales require massive power inputs. Yet your metabolism is only slightly elevated above baseline human norms. Where is the energy coming from? The radioactive spider bite, Peter said. I'm guessing? It's not like I had before measurements to compare against. After I got bitten, I woke up with enhanced strength, agility, the wall-crawling thing, and the spider sense. I always assumed it was all connected to the enhanced physiology. May I? Data gestured to Peter's arm. With permission, the android ran a specialized medical scanner, his golden eyes processing information faster than any biological mind could manage. Fascinating. Your cellular structure shows evidence of foreign DNA integration, arachnid genetic markers interwoven with your human genome at the molecular level. But more than that, your cells contain unusual organelles that appear to generate and manipulate quantum fields. I have spider organelles, Peter said flatly. That's either the coolest or most disturbing thing I've learned today. It explains the spider sense, Crusher interjected, studying the data. These organelles, they're essentially biological quantum computers, maintaining entanglement between your present and immediate future states. The energy comes from your enhanced metabolism, breaking down nutrients at incredible efficiency. You're not just stronger and faster, Mr. Parker. You're operating partially outside linear time. Peter stared at the holographic representation of his own cells, watching the strange organelles pulse with quantum probability. So, when I dodge a punch before it's thrown, I'm literally receiving a message from future me who already got punched. In a manner of speaking, yes, Data confirmed. Though the causality is complex. The future becomes probabilistic, not deterministic. You sense the most likely danger from multiple potential timelines and react to the aggregate threat. It is simultaneously precognition and enhanced pattern recognition. Does it hurt? Crusher asked, her medical concern evident. Maintaining quantum entanglement with your own future self, that must create neural stress. Peter considered. Sometimes, when there's a lot of danger happening at once, or when the threat is really complex, it feels like my brain is overclouding. I get migraines sometimes after major battles. I always thought it was just exhaustion. It's temporal feedback, Data said. Multiple future timelines collapsing simultaneously, each sending danger signals. Your brain is processing threat data from futures that may never occur. I suspect prolonged exposure to severe danger could cause lasting neural damage. Great. So being Spider-Man is slowly breaking my brain. That's comforting. Crusher's hand found his shoulder. We could help, potentially. Federation medical technology might be able to buffer the neural load or enhance your natural defenses against the feedback. It wouldn't eliminate your abilities, just make them safer to use. Peter's spider sense tingled. Not danger, but significance. This was a choice point. These people could fundamentally change what it meant to be Spider-Man, make the cost of heroism lower, the burden lighter. And they were offering freely, without expecting payment or anything in return. I appreciate that, Dr. Crusher. Really. But I think the cost is part of what makes it matter. Uncle Ben used to say, with great power comes great responsibility. If being Spider-Man was easy, if it didn't hurt sometimes, would I take it as seriously? Would I understand what I was asking others to risk when I asked for help? Data tilted his head. A philosophical position. You believe suffering validates your choices. Not validates, informs. I don't want to suffer. But knowing that heroism has costs, that keeps me honest, keeps me from making decisions lightly. And mature perspective for someone your age, Crusher observed. Though I hope you understand. Choosing to endure suffering when alternatives exist is not noble, Peter. It's martyrdom, and martyrs tend to die young. Before Peter could respond, the comm system chirped urgently. Bridge to all stations. Unidentified vessel detected on an intercept course. Red alert. The lab's lighting shifted to crimson. Crusher and Data exchanged glances. Red alert was rare enough to be notable, common enough that neither panicked. Mr. Parker, please remain here, Data said, already moving toward the door. The bridge may require... No. Peter was off the diagnostic platform, pulling the electrode pads from his temples. If there's danger, I'm helping. That's kind of my whole thing. Peter, you're a civilian guest, Crusher began. Doctor, with respect, I've fought alien invasions. I can handle whatever's out there. His spider sense suddenly screamed, not the subtle tingle of alertness or the moderate buzz of approaching danger. This was a klaxon in his skull, a primal scream that something was fundamentally wrong. Peter staggered, grabbing the diagnostic platform for support. Peter! Crusher caught him as his knees buckled. What is it? Something, someone. Peter's voice was strained, his enhanced senses trying to process threat data from futures that were branching, collapsing, reforming in impossible configurations. It's not just danger, it's attention. Something is looking at us, at me, at Mr. Stark. Something that sees across. He couldn't find words for what his spider sense was detecting. We need to get to the bridge. Now. Data's android strength lifted Peter effortlessly. Dr. Crusher, inform Captain Picard we are en route. Mr. Parker's precognitive abilities may provide tactical advantage. They moved quickly through corridors filled with crew running to battle stations. The Enterprise was preparing for conflict with practiced efficiency. No panic, no chaos. Just professionals doing jobs they'd trained for. Peter's spider sense continued to scream, though the nature of the threat remained maddeningly unclear. The turbo lift deposited them on the bridge just as the view screen resolved into focus. The vessel that had intercepted them was unlike anything Peter had seen in Federation databases. Sleek, predatory, painted in dark greens and grays that seemed to drink the light. It was smaller than the Enterprise, but radiated menace the way a cobra radiates before striking. Romulan Warbird, Worf announced from Tactical, his voice grim. The Deridex class. They're running with cloak disengaged and weapons charged, hailing on all frequencies. On screen, Picard commanded. The view screen shifted. A Romulan commander appeared. Angular features, pointed ears, severe expression. Her uniform was immaculate, her bearing military. But her eyes held something Peter recognized from his worst fights: absolute certainty of superiority. Federation Vessel Enterprise. I am Commander Sella of the Romulan Star Empire. You will stand down your shields and prepare to be boarded. This is not a request. Picard stood, his posture relaxed, but his voice carrying absolute authority. Commander Sella, we are in Federation space, traveling under diplomatic credentials. We have no quarrel with the Romulan Empire. What is the nature of this confrontation? You know precisely what this concerns, Picard. Sella's eyes were cold. Our long-range sensors detected an unusual subspace distortion in the neutral zone 3 hours ago. Shortly thereafter, your vessel was observed in the vicinity. Then we detected energy signatures consistent with technology not belonging to any known Federation world. She leaned forward. You have obtained alien technology or made contact with an unknown species, and you are attempting to keep this information from us. This violates the Treaty of Algeron in spirit, if not letter. We have made no agreements with unknown species that concern the Romulan Empire, Picard said carefully. The energy signatures you detected are the result of an unplanned first contact scenario involving displaced individuals. They pose no threat to Romulan interests. That is for us to determine. Transfer the individuals to our custody for interrogation, or we will interpret your refusal as an act of hostility. Peter felt his spider sense shift. The danger wasn't coming from the Romulans, not directly. It was something else, something watching this confrontation with interest, something that found the situation amusing. In main engineering, Tony Stark was having a very different crisis. Friday had been monitoring the bridge communications, and now alarms were screaming across his HUD. Boss, we have a problem. The Romulans are demanding you and the kid, and based on their weapons loadout, they're not bluffing about the hostile response. Can the Enterprise take them? Tony asked Geordi, who was frantically running combat simulations. In a straight fight, probably. We've got better shields, superior firepower. But Romulan warbirds are fast, and if they cloak and run, they could bring reinforcements. This could turn into a diplomatic incident that starts a war. Geordi's hands flew across his console. The captain's trying to negotiate, but they want us specifically, Tony finished. Because we're unknown quantities with weird powers and tech that doesn't match Federation standards. From a strategic intelligence perspective, we're prizes to be captured and studied. Or neutralized, Geordi said grimly. If they can't have you, they might decide the Federation shouldn't either. Tony's arc reactor pulsed faster, matching his racing thoughts. This was his fault. His experimental dimensional scanner had created the rift that brought them here. His technology had generated the energy signatures that attracted Romulan attention. Now these people, this crew that had shown them nothing but kindness, might go to war because of him. Friday, can we get to the bridge? Turbo lifts fastest, but boss, what are you planning? Something stupid and heroic. Peter would approve. That's what worries me. On the bridge, Picard was maintaining diplomatic composure despite Sella's escalating threats. Commander, I understand your concern. However, these individuals are under Federation protection. I cannot simply hand them over to satisfy your curiosity. It is not curiosity, Picard. It is security. These displaced individuals appeared via a subspace rift that our scientists believe was artificially generated. The technology to create such rifts would have profound military applications. If the Federation has developed dimensional travel and failed to inform us, we haven't. Peter interjected, stepping forward despite Worf's warning growl. Commander Sella, I'm Peter Parker. The rift was an accident. We didn't mean to come here. We didn't mean to create an interstellar incident, and we definitely didn't mean to make you think the Federation was hiding superweapons. Sella's eyes fixed on him with predatory interest. And yet, here you are, young, enhanced strength evident in your movements, unusual biosignature according to our sensors. You are either an experiment or an evolutionary leap. Either way, you represent technology the Empire would very much like to understand. Peter's spider sense screamed again, and suddenly he understood. You don't want to study us. You want to replicate us. Create super soldiers with our abilities. That's what this is about. Among other applications, yes. Sella didn't deny it. Your companion in engineering, the one with the powered armor and the miniature reactor, he represents even greater potential. Imagine Romulan soldiers equipped with such devices. Imagine warbirds powered by that technology. You are not persons, Mr. Parker. You are opportunities. Captain Picard closed his eyes briefly, gathering the patience required to deal with an omnipotent entity who treated reality like a theatrical stage. When he opened them again, Q was examining his fingernails with exaggerated disinterest, clearly waiting for a reaction. Q, Picard said with forced calm, this is neither the time nor the place for your games. We have a genuine crisis requiring... Oh, I know all about your crisis, Jean-Luc. Q waved his hand dismissively. The view screen showing the Romulan warbird flickered, froze, then displayed a still image, as if someone had paused a video. There. Much better. Commander Sella was getting rather tiresome with all her threats and posturing. I've given you and your new friends a brief temporal pocket to sort things out. You're welcome. You've frozen time? Data asked, his android mind immediately fascinated despite the circumstances. Frozen, paused, put on intermission. Pick your metaphor. The Romulans are fine, just experiencing a very, very long moment between heartbeats. As is Mr. Stark, currently mid-transport and blissfully unaware that he's been suspended in a quantum buffer. I do love the look on faces when they realize they've been in stasis. It's always so delightfully confused. Peter stepped forward, his spider sense still eerily quiet in Q's presence. Who are you? What do you want? And can you send Mr. Stark back before the Romulans get him? Q's eyes lit up with interest as he examined Peter. Oh, you're the spider child. How delightful. Precognitive abilities, enhanced physiology, guilt complex the size of a small moon. Very Peter Parker. Tell me, do you always lead with questions when meeting omnipotent beings? Or is that just your charming queen's personality shining through? You know who I am, Peter said slowly. How do you? I'm Q, darling boy. I know everything. Past, present, future, and all the delightfully complicated alternatives in between. I know about the radioactive spider, the death of your uncle, your rather uncomfortable crush on MJ, that incident with the Washington Monument, Mysterio's rather pedestrian illusions, and yes, the rather tragic end of an alternate Tony Stark that still gives you nightmares. Q materialized a chair and sat, crossing his legs. I also know about your current Tony, suspended between ships, convinced he's being heroic, completely unaware that the Romulans plan to vivisect him regardless of how helpful he was. They're quite thorough, the Tal Shiar. First we learn, then we dissect, then we replicate. It's practically their motto. Horror washed across Peter's face. He's going to die if he goes over there. Oh, almost certainly. Though die is such a limited term when dealing with Romulan medical technology. More like be kept alive indefinitely while they systematically remove and study each organ. It's actually quite impressive from a scientific standpoint. Morally abhorrent, but impressive. Q. Picard's voice was sharp. If you have the power to prevent this, do so, now. And deprive humanity of another valuable teaching moment? Jean-Luc, I'm disappointed in you. You of all people should understand that growth comes through challenge. Q stood, his expression shifting from theatrical to something approaching genuine seriousness. Besides, this isn't about Mr. Stark's immediate danger. This is about you, Captain, about your crew, and about these two delightful anachronisms you've welcomed aboard. Riker had been watching silently, but now he spoke. Q, you don't appear randomly. You always have an agenda. What is it this time? Commander Riker, still so suspicious. I like that about you. Q snapped his fingers, and the bridge's aft stations transformed into comfortable seating, complete with a table bearing Earl Grey tea and what appeared to be coffee. Sit, everyone. Let's have a civilized conversation about the nature of humanity, the perils of dimensional travel, and whether these two belong in your timeline at all. We don't belong here, Peter said immediately. We want to go home, but we're not leaving without Mr. Stark. Such loyalty. It's almost touching. Q poured himself tea with exaggerated ceremony. But let me pose a question, Mr. Parker. You come from a timeline where humanity is still mired in conflict, scarcity, and the endless cycle of enhanced individuals fighting enhanced threats. You've seen Captain Picard's Federation, a humanity that evolved beyond such primitive concerns. So tell me, don't you want to stay? Don't you want to be part of a universe where you don't have to be Spider-Man because the systemic causes of crime have been eliminated? Peter's throat was tight. Of course I want that, but it's not my universe. My Earth needs what? A child with spider powers to prevent muggings? How absurdly inefficient. Q turned to Picard. Captain, wouldn't you agree that Mr. Parker's abilities could be better utilized in Starfleet? Imagine a security officer with precognitive threat detection, the lives that could be saved. Q, I will not allow you to manipulate these individuals, Picard said firmly. They have the right to return to their own timeline, regardless of how we might benefit from their presence. Always so principled, Jean-Luc. It's simultaneously your best quality and your most tedious. Q sipped his tea. But what about Mr. Stark? The brilliant engineer who spent years building weapons, then repenting, then building more weapons while calling them defense systems? Wouldn't he be better served in a century where his genius could be applied to exploration rather than endless conflict? Geordi, who had remained at his engineering station throughout the exchange, spoke up. Tony Stark is one of the most innovative engineers I've ever encountered. His arc reactor alone represents theoretical breakthroughs we haven't fully explored. If he stayed, if he worked with Federation scientists, he'd be miserable, Data interjected quietly. All eyes turned to the android. Mr. Stark defines himself through adversity and problem-solving in resource-constrained environments. In the Federation's post-scarcity society, he would lack the challenges that give his work meaning. He would become, as he feared, obsolete. Not in capability, but in purpose. Q clapped his hands delightedly. Oh, Data. You continue to surprise me with your insights into humanity. Yes, precisely. Tony Stark needs to be needed, needs to be the only one who can solve impossible problems. Take away the scarcity, the threats, the constant validation through heroic necessity, and what's left? Just a man with a glowing chest and unresolved trauma. That's not fair, Peter protested. Mr. Stark is more than his trauma. He's defined by it? Absolutely. As are you, Mr. Parker. Your uncle's death, your conviction that you failed him, your desperate need to save everyone to make up for the one person you couldn't save. It's all very human and very predictable. Q's voice softened slightly. Which is why I'm here. Not to mock. Well, not only to mock, but to pose the question you've been avoiding since you arrived. Which is? Picard asked. Whether you send them home at all. Q snapped his fingers. The view screen changed, displaying not the frozen Romulan warbird, but a split image. On one side, Peter and Tony's Earth, cities burning, aliens invading, heroes fighting impossible odds. On the other, the Enterprise's Earth, peaceful, prosperous, unified under the Federation's banner. Look at the difference, Mr. Parker. Look at what your world is versus what this world became. If I gave you the choice, truly gave you the choice, would you go back? Would you return to being Spider-Man, knowing you could stay here and be just Peter, living in a universe where your uncle's death doesn't define you? Peter stared at the images, his heart breaking. His Earth looked so small, so violent, so exhausting from this perspective. Here, he could attend Starfleet Academy, could study xenobiology or engineering, could explore the universe without having to fight it every day, could be normal. Except he'd never really wanted normal. He'd wanted responsibility. I'd go back, Peter said quietly, because they need Spider-Man, even if it hurts, even if it's exhausting. They need someone who remembers that every person matters, that every life is worth saving. This universe figured that out. Mine is still learning, and maybe having seen this, having known this is possible, I can help us get there faster. Q's expression was unreadable. Then he turned to the frozen image of Tony Stark, suspended in transport. And what about Mr. Stark? If I woke him right now, offered him the same choice, stay in paradise or return to hell, what would he choose? He'd choose Peter, Deanna Troi said with absolute certainty. Whatever else Tony Stark is, he's loyal to those he considers his responsibility. He'd return to protect Peter, regardless of the cost to himself. Even though returning means going back to being Iron Man? Back to the constant threats, the political pressures, the never-ending arms race with every villain and government that wants his technology? Q's voice carried genuine curiosity. He could have peace here. Purpose without conflict, collaboration without competition. Why would he choose suffering? Because it's his suffering, Worf rumbled unexpectedly. All eyes turned to the Klingon. Among my people, we have a saying. A warrior's path is not chosen for glory, but because someone must walk it. Mr. Stark became Iron Man because he saw a problem only he could solve. That responsibility does not disappear simply because an easier path exists. Q studied Worf with something approaching respect. The Klingon understands. How delightfully unexpected. He turned back to Picard. So, Jean-Luc, your recommendation? Send these time-displaced heroes home to their violent century? Let them carry the burden of knowledge that humanity could be better but isn't yet? Or keep them here, safe and purposeless, while their timeline struggles without them? That's not my decision to make, Picard said firmly. It's theirs, and I will support whatever choice they make, as is the right of all sentient beings to determine their own destiny, even if their choice is objectively worse for their well-being. Especially then, freedom means nothing if it only extends to choices we approve of. Q laughed, a sound like crystal bells and thunder. Oh, Jean-Luc, you magnificent, stubborn, principled fool. This is why I keep coming back to test you. You actually believe all that Federation idealism. He snapped his fingers again. Very well. I'll return your armored engineer and release the Romulans from temporal suspension. But first, Mr. Parker, come here. Peter's spider sense remained silent, which was somehow more unsettling than if it had been screaming. He approached Q cautiously, half expecting this to be a trap. Q placed a hand on Peter's shoulder, and suddenly Peter's mind exploded with information. He saw timelines branching and collapsing, saw universes where he stayed in the 24th century, became a Starfleet officer, lived peacefully, saw universes where he returned home and died fighting, saw universes where his choice rippled out, affecting not just his life, but the entire timeline's evolution toward or away from the Federation's ideals. Do you see, Peter Parker? Q's voice was directly in his mind. Every choice matters. Every moment of suffering you endure, every person you save. Every time you choose responsibility over comfort, it all compounds. Your universe doesn't become the Federation automatically. The dimensional rift hung in space like a wound in reality, its edges crackling with energy signatures that made the Enterprise's sensors scream protest. Data stood at the science station, his fingers moving faster than human hands could manage, calculating trajectories through 11 dimensions while simultaneously accounting for temporal drift and quantum uncertainty. The rift is stabilizing according to Q's parameters, Data reported. However, stable is a relative term when discussing transdimensional phenomena. The passage will be turbulent and the temporal synchronization is imprecise. Mr. Stark, Mr. Parker, when you transit, you will arrive in your home universe, but I can't guarantee the exact moment. You may arrive seconds after you left, or hours. The margin of error is approximately 6 hours in either direction. Tony studied the rift through the view screen, Friday running her own calculations and reaching similar conclusions. So we might get home before we left, create a temporal paradox, and accidentally erase ourselves from existence? That scenario is unlikely, but not impossible, Data confirmed. The universe tends toward causal consistency. More likely, you will arrive shortly after your departure, with memories of this experience intact, but no physical evidence beyond your own testimony. Great. So, when we try to tell people about the 24th century, they'll think we had a shared hallucination. Tony turned to Geordi, who was working on modifications to the armor. Tell me you're getting somewhere with a dimensional anchor. Geordi looked up from where he'd been integrating Federation technology with the Iron Man suit. Almost done. This device will maintain a quantum link to your home universe during transit. It should prevent you from getting scattered across the multiverse. Think of it as a GPS for dimensional travel. It won't get you there, but it'll make sure you end up in the right there instead of some parallel universe where everything's slightly wrong. Slightly wrong how? Peter asked nervously. He was watching Dr. Crusher work on a similar device for his suit, smaller, integrated into his web shooters since he didn't have armor to mount it in. Oh, The usual parallel universe variations, Geordi said with deliberate casualness. Everyone has goatees. The Federation is evil. Spock is illogical. Pizza is considered a dessert. Nightmare scenarios. Pizza as dessert is where I draw the line, Peter said. If we end up in that universe, we're coming back. Noted, Crusher said with a smile. But seriously, Peter, this device will also monitor your spider sense during transit. The quantum feedback you experienced with Q, that was your precognitive abilities trying to process an omnipotent being's manipulations of causality. During dimensional transit, you'll experience similar stress. This will buffer it, prevent neural damage. You're making dimensional travel sound safe and comfortable, which I know is a lie, Tony said. I prefer survivable with acceptable risk levels, Crusher corrected. Though I won't lie to you, this is experimental. We're adapting transporter technology for purposes it was never designed for. The fact that Q stabilized the rift helps immensely, but there are no guarantees. Picard entered engineering, Counselor Troy at his side. The captain had been coordinating with Starfleet Command, explaining the situation in careful diplomatic language that somehow made omnipotent being interfered with first contact scenario sound routine. Mr. Stark, Mr. Parker, Picard said. Starfleet has approved your transit attempt. However, Admiral Nechayev wanted me to extend an offer. If you wish to remain in our time, the Federation would welcome you. Starfleet Academy would accept your applications immediately. Your abilities and knowledge would be valuable assets. But you don't think we should stay, Tony observed, reading the captain's tone. I think you know where you belong, Picard said carefully. And I think Q was correct, irritatingly so, when he suggested your timeline needs you more than ours does. We have achieved peace. You are still fighting for it. That fight matters, Mr. Stark, perhaps more than comfort. Tony's arc reactor pulsed. Yeah, I'm beginning to understand that. He looked at the modifications Geordi had made. Federation technology integrated seamlessly with his armor, upgrades that would make him more efficient, safer, stronger. Commander, will this tech work in my universe? Or am I going to get home and find out it all just stops functioning? I've calibrated everything to be universe agnostic, Geordi explained. The principles are sound regardless of dimensional constants. You won't have access to our power sources or materials, no antimatter, no dilithium, but the dimensional anchor and the neural buffer for Peter will work. They're self-contained, powered by your own arc reactor and Peter's enhanced metabolism respectively. So I'm taking 24th century tech back to the 21st century, Tony said. That feels like I'm breaking about 17 prime directives. The prime directive applies to pre-warp civilizations, Data interjected. Your Earth has achieved spaceflight and nuclear technology. The temporal prime directive is more relevant, but that concerns time travel within our own timeline. Cross-dimensional transfer of technology occupies a legal gray area that Starfleet has never formally addressed. Translation. We're making this up as we go, Riker said, entering engineering with Worf. The first officer carried 2 small cases. But before you leave, the captain authorized these. He handed 1 case to Tony, 1 to Peter. Tony opened his to find a data storage device smaller than his thumb, glowing faintly with stored information. What is this? Everything we think might help, Riker explained. Medical knowledge that could advance your timeline's treatments, engineering principles that might inspire new innovations, diplomatic protocols that could improve international relations. Nothing that would disrupt your timeline's natural development, but information that might ease suffering, inspire cooperation, accelerate peaceful progress. Peter stared at his own data device, overwhelmed. This is everything. Medical science that could cure diseases, engineering that could solve energy crises, diplomatic frameworks that could prevent wars. You're just giving this to us? With the understanding that you'll use it responsibly, Picard said. We trust you to introduce this knowledge gradually, appropriately, in ways that help rather than disrupt. You've proven yourselves worthy of that trust. What if we're not? Tony asked quietly. What if I take this home and make everything worse? What if some government seizes it, weaponizes it, uses it to? Then you'll deal with that challenge as it arises, Picard interrupted gently. Mr. Stark, perfection is not a prerequisite for attempting good. You will make mistakes. You will face unintended consequences. But the alternative, withholding help that could save lives because you fear imperfection, that is a greater failure. Troy stepped forward, her empathic senses reading the complex emotions radiating from both young men. You're both terrified. Not of the transit, though, that's part of it. You're terrified of going back to a world that now seems impossibly primitive. Terrified that knowing what humanity can become will make living in what humanity currently is unbearable. You're good at this reading people thing, Peter said, his voice tight. It's why I'm here. And Peter, Tony, what you're feeling is normal. Culture shock works both directions. You've seen Utopia. Returning to reality will be painful, but you'll also carry something precious. Hope based on evidence. You know the destination is real because you visited it. That knowledge is worth the pain of knowing you're not there yet. Worf approached, carrying 2 more items. These are Starfleet comm badges, modified to function as communicators in your universe. Though the range will be limited compared to our subspace capabilities. They are not functional Starfleet equipment, merely symbolic. But they may remind you, in difficult moments, that the ideals you've seen here are worth fighting for. Tony took the comm badge, running his thumb over its smooth surface. The Starfleet Delta, that simple symbol representing exploration, cooperation, peace. You're giving us the metaphorical keys to the future. We're giving you tools, Picard corrected. What you build with them is your choice. Sir, Data announced, we are approaching optimal transit window. The rift will be at maximum stability in 17 minutes. I recommend Mr. Stark and Mr. Parker prepare for immediate departure. 17 minutes. Peter felt his spider sense tingle, not danger, but significance. In 17 minutes, they'd leave this impossible future behind. Return to their own time, their own problems, their own endless fight. Can I ask something? Peter said suddenly. Captain Picard, how did you do it? How did humanity get from where we are, wars, poverty, environmental collapse, to here? To the Federation, to peace, to everything working? Picard was silent for a long moment, considering his answer carefully. It wasn't one moment, Mr. Parker. It was millions of moments. Millions of individuals across centuries choosing to be better than their worst impulses. There were setbacks, wars before peace, catastrophes before recovery. First contact with the Vulcans in 2063 helped, but even that wasn't magic. Zefram Cochrane's warp flight proved humanity was ready to join the galactic community. But becoming worthy of that community took another century of hard work. World War III, Tony said quietly, Friday had found the historical records. 2026 to 2053. 600 million dead. Most major cities destroyed. Earth nearly rendered uninhabitable. Yes, Picard acknowledged. Humanity's darkest hour came before our dawn. We nearly destroyed ourselves. But in the aftermath, we chose differently. Chose cooperation over competition. Chose abundance over scarcity. Chose to believe that we could be better than we had been. And you're telling us this because our timeline might face the same thing, Peter realized. World War III could still happen for us. Or you might prevent it, Troy said gently. Knowing it's a possibility, you can work to change those probabilities. Every life you save, every conflict you de-escalate, every moment you choose compassion over convenience, it all matters. Tony laughed, but it was bitter. No pressure, kid. Just prevent World War III and guide humanity toward utopia. Simple Tuesday afternoon work. Mr. Stark, Data said. And there was something in the android's voice, something almost human, almost warm. I have spent my existence attempting to understand humanity, to become more human. And one thing I have learned, humans are most human not when they succeed, but when they try despite knowing they might fail. You do not need to save the world alone. You simply need to contribute to saving it, alongside millions of others making similar choices. That is how the Federation was built. One choice at a time, one person at a time, across centuries. Data, that was inspirational, Tony said. You're getting better at this humanity thing. Thank you. I am attempting to provide the emotional support a human friend would offer in this situation. Was my performance adequate? It was perfect, buddy, Peter said, his eyes wet. You're more human than a lot of actual humans I've met. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur of final preparations. Geordi completed the dimensional anchor integration. Crusher finished the neural buffer. Tony ran systems checks while Friday created backups of all the data they'd been given. Peter tested his web shooters, making sure the Federation modifications wouldn't interfere with the formula. And the crew of the Enterprise said goodbye. Geordi shook Tony's hand, engineer to engineer. Build something beautiful. And if you ever figure out how to make reliable dimensional travel work, come visit. I'd love to compare notes. Crusher hugged Peter, maternal and fierce. Take care of yourself. And remember, heroism that destroys you isn't heroism. It's just destruction with good intentions. Worf gripped both their shoulders, his Klingon strength evident but carefully controlled. You face your battles with honor. That matters regardless of outcome. Kapla. Riker smiled his easy, confident smile. You're going to do great things, I can tell. Just try not to blow up too many planets in the process. Data approached last, his expression thoughtful. Mr. Parker, Mr. Stark, I have enjoyed our conversations about consciousness, responsibility, and the nature of what makes us who we are. I believe I understand humanity better for having known you. I hope you will remember us when the path becomes difficult. We will, Peter promised. Data, you're proof that being human isn't about biology. It's about caring, about trying, about choosing to be better. Don't ever doubt that you're one of the most human people I've met. Optimal transit window approaching, the computer announced. Dimensional rift stability at maximum. Picard stepped forward, extending his hand to Tony first, then Peter. Gentlemen, it has been an honor. You came here as unknowns, and you leave as friends. Whatever challenges you face, remember, you have seen proof that humanity can evolve, can become something wonderful. Carry that knowledge, share it when appropriate, and never stop believing it's possible. Tony's throat was tight. Captain, thank you for everything, for trusting us, teaching us, showing us what we're fighting for. We won't forget. See that you don't. The Federation will exist in your timeline, or it won't, based partly on choices you make in the next several decades. That's a heavy burden, but I suspect you're both strong enough to carry it. They moved to the transporter room, the crew following. The platform hummed with power, the dimensional rift visible through the view screen, a swirling vortex of impossible colors and energies that made Peter's spider sense sing. Tony's armor deployed fully. Peter pulled his Spider-Man mask on, becoming the hero rather than the kid. The dimensional anchors attached to their suits pulsed with steady rhythms, quantum hooks that would drag them home through the screaming chaos of dimensional transit. Energizing in 30 seconds, the transporter chief announced. "Friday, you ready?" Tony asked. "Ready as I'll ever be, boss. Though for the record, dimensional travel was not in my original programming specifications." "Mine neither," Peter said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But hey, what's life without a little terror?" 10 seconds. Tony looked at Peter. The dimensional transit felt like dying. Peter's consciousness stretched across 11 dimensions simultaneously. He saw his own timeline from the outside, a thin thread of causality winding through infinite possibilities. He saw the moment of his arrival in the 24th century as a quantum knot, a place where probabilities had tangled and created something new. And he saw the Federation's timeline running parallel, a path his universe might follow or might never reach, depending on 10,000 small choices not yet made. His spider sense screamed, not warnings of physical danger, but existential alarm. His precognitive abilities trying to process every possible future at once. The neural buffer crusher had installed pulsed, dampening the feedback, translating cosmic horror into manageable discomfort. It felt like the worst migraine of his life, multiplied by infinity and compressed into subjective seconds that lasted objective eternities. Uncle Ben's voice, somehow present in the chaos. With great power comes great responsibility. Picard's voice, equally impossible. You have seen proof that humanity can evolve. Q's voice, amused and ancient. Every choice matters, Peter Parker. The dimensional anchor yanked him sideways through probability space. Reality reassembled around him with the subtlety of a car crash. Air, gravity, the familiar electromagnetic spectrum of his home universe rushing back in a wave that made every sense shriek protest. Peter materialized 3 feet above the workshop floor and dropped, his enhanced reflexes letting him land in a crouch despite the disorientation. His spider sense immediately started providing useful information again. No danger, familiar environment, Mr. Stark nearby. Tony materialized simultaneously, his armor's compensators handling the transition better than Peter's biology. He landed on his feet, repulsors firing automatically to stabilize, arc reactor pulsing erratically as it recalibrated to familiar physics. Friday, status report. All systems functional, boss. We're home. The workshop, specifically. Temporal scan indicates we left approximately 4 hours and 17 minutes ago. No temporal paradox detected. The dimensional anchor worked. They were in Tony's private workshop, the one beneath his Malibu house, rebuilt after the Mandarin attack. Holographic displays flickered back to life, showing the exact moment they'd activated the dimensional scanner. The equipment was still smoking slightly from the feedback that had created the rift, Peter pulled off his mask, gasping. His head was pounding, his spider sense still recalibrating, but he was alive. He was home. "We made it," Peter said, disbelief and relief warring in his voice. "We actually made it back." Tony's faceplate retracted. His expression was complicated. Relief, yes, but also something like grief. They'd been gone less than a day's subjective time, but that day had contained an entire future, a better future. And now they were back in a present that felt impossibly primitive by comparison. Friday, full diagnostic. Any lasting effects from the dimensional transit? Your arc reactor is functioning normally, though I'm detecting some unusual quantum signatures that I can't quite classify. Peter's neural activity is elevated but stabilizing. The Federation modifications to both your systems are intact and functional. Boss, we actually did it. We traveled to the future, met the Enterprise crew, learned from them, and came home with 24th century upgrades and a data repository of advanced knowledge. Yeah. Tony sat down heavily on his workbench. We did. Peter joined him, his spider sense finally settling into its normal background awareness. "Mr. Stark, are you okay?" "Define okay, kid. We just spent a day in paradise and came back to this." Tony gestured vaguely at the workshop, at the 21st century, at reality. "Every system here looks ancient now. My arc reactor that I thought was cutting edge. The Enterprise produces more power in a microsecond than this generates in a year. My armor that I designed to be unstoppable, their shields would laugh at it. Everything I've built, everything I've accomplished, it's all just primitive cave paintings compared to what we saw." "But it's ours," Peter said firmly. "This is our time, our world. And now we know it can be better. We have proof." Tony pulled out the data storage device Riker had given him. It glowed faintly with stored information, centuries of accumulated knowledge, freely given. "You know what's on here? Medical treatments that could save millions, energy technologies that could eliminate fossil fuels, agricultural techniques that could end hunger, diplomatic frameworks that could prevent wars. Everything we need to jumpstart our timeline toward becoming the Federation." "So, what's the problem?" "The problem, kid, is that information without context is dangerous. If I release these medical treatments without the infrastructure to support them, people die. If I introduce the energy tech without controlling who has access, it gets weaponized. If I try to implement diplomatic frameworks in a world still run by nationalism and capitalism, I get called naive at best, treasonous at worst." Tony ran his hands through his hair. Picard made it sound simple. Just use it responsibly. Introduce it gradually. But he lives in a world where responsibility is shared, where everyone works toward common good. We live in a world where everyone's working their own angle. Peter thought about this, his enhanced mind processing the implications. So we can't just release it? We have to be strategic. Introduce things that help without disrupting. Find ways to improve the world that don't trigger the people who profit from keeping it broken. Exactly. And that's going to take years, Peter. Decades, maybe. Carefully navigating government oversight, corporate interests, international politics, all while trying to push humanity towards something better without anyone realizing we're doing it. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also necessary. Tony stood, his arc reactor pulsing steadier now. Data was right. We don't have to save the world alone. We just have to contribute to saving it. One innovation at a time, one life at a time, working alongside everyone else who's trying to make things better. Peter's phone buzzed. He turned it off before the dimensional transit, but now it was back online, syncing with the local network. Messages from Aunt May, from Ned, from MJ. Normal life reasserting itself. He had classes tomorrow, homework due, rent to pay, Spider-Man responsibilities. A week ago, that would have felt overwhelming. Now, having seen a future where humanity had solved these problems, it felt almost manageable, because he knew it was possible. Mr. Stark, what do we tell people about where we were, what we saw? Tony considered. Nothing initially. We need time to process, to plan. Eventually, maybe we find ways to share the inspiration without revealing the specifics. Talk about what humanity could become. Share the ideals without claiming we visited the Federation. Let people think it's optimistic speculation rather than eyewitness testimony. So we lie. We strategically withhold information that would make us sound insane and undermine our credibility when we try to introduce beneficial changes. Tony smiled wryly. It's not lying, kid. It's tactical truth management. That sounds like lying with extra steps. Welcome to adulthood. Peter laughed despite everything. They were home. They were safe. They had knowledge that could change the world and the crushing responsibility to use it wisely. It was terrifying and overwhelming, and somehow exactly what he'd signed up for when he became Spider-Man. His spider sense tingled. Not danger, significance. A moment of choice approaching. We should tell the Avengers, Peter said. Not everything, but something. They'll notice the upgrades to your armor, the changes to my suit, and if we're going to introduce Federation knowledge gradually, we'll need allies. People who understand what we're trying to accomplish. Tony nodded slowly, carefully, selectively. Start with Steve, maybe. He understands fighting for an ideal even when the world isn't ready for it yet. Then Bruce, he'll appreciate the scientific implications. Work our way out from there. What about the government? SHIELD? The Sokovia Accords oversight committees? We tell them nothing until we absolutely have to. The moment any government knows we have access to 24th century tech, they'll classify it, weaponize it, or both. No, this stays private until we're ready to make it public on our terms. Friday interrupted. Boss, I hate to interrupt the planning session, but you're getting an incoming call from Pepper. She's wondering where you've been for the past 4 hours and why your tracking beacon went offline. Should I tell her you were visiting the future, or would you prefer a more conventional excuse? Tony winced. Tell her the dimensional scanner malfunctioned and I had to handle it personally, which is technically true. She's going to know you're hiding something. I'm always hiding something. It's part of my charm. Your charm is debatable, boss. Peter stood, stretching. His body ached from the dimensional transit, but his enhanced healing was already handling it. I should get home. Aunt May is probably worried. And I need to just sit in my apartment and process that we met Captain Picard, that we stood on the Enterprise bridge, that we saw the future, and it was good. Kid, before you go, Tony pulled out the Starfleet comm badge Worf had given him. Geordi modified these to work as communicators in our universe. Limited range, but functional. Take yours. If you need me, for anything, Spider-Man business, or just to talk about the fact that we know the Federation is real, you can reach me. Peter accepted the comm badge, running his thumb over the Delta shield. You know what's crazy? This is probably the least advanced piece of technology we brought back. But it might be the most important, because it reminds us that we're not alone, that we're part of something bigger. When did you get so philosophical? I learned from the best. Peter attached the comm badge to his suit, letting it nestle against the spider emblem. Captain Picard, Data, Dr. Bosta, Crusher. They taught me a lot in one day. They taught us both a lot. Tony looked at his own comm badge, then at the data repository, then at his workshop full of technology that suddenly seemed ancient. We have a lot of work ahead of us, Peter. Building a better world from inside a broken one. It's going to be hard, frustrating. We'll make mistakes, and we'll probably never see the full results. The Federation won't exist in our lifetimes, maybe not for centuries after we're gone. But it'll exist, Peter said with certainty. We saw it. We know it's possible. And knowing that makes the fight worth it. Tony's arc reactor pulsed, casting blue light across the workshop. Yeah, kid, it really does. Peter headed for the door, then paused. Mr. Stark, thank you for taking me with you when the rift opened, for protecting me on the Enterprise. 3 weeks after the Enterprise, Peter stood on a rooftop in Queens, watching the sun set over New York City. His spider sense hummed with the usual background awareness. A mugging 2 blocks south, a domestic dispute 3 blocks east, a robbery in progress half a mile north. Normal night in the city, normal Spider-Man work, except nothing felt normal anymore. The Starfleet comm badge on his chest pulsed faintly. Tony had been quiet since they'd returned, working in his lab, presumably trying to figure out how to introduce Federation knowledge without destroying the geopolitical landscape. Peter had gone back to his regular life. Classes, homework, Aunt May, web-slinging. But everything felt different now. He'd seen what humanity could become, and every time he stopped a robbery or saved someone from a fire, he couldn't help but think, in the 24th century, this wouldn't be necessary. The systemic causes would be gone. The desperation eliminated. People wouldn't rob because scarcity would be solved. Buildings wouldn't burn because construction would be safer. It should have been comforting. Instead, it made him angry. His phone buzzed. Text from MJ. Where are you? We had plans, right? Date night. He'd completely forgotten. Peter fired a web line, swinging toward the coffee shop where they'd agreed to meet, already rehearsing apologies. MJ was waiting outside, arms crossed, expression oscillating between annoyed and worried. When she saw Spider-Man land in the alley, and Peter emerge a moment later in civilian clothes, the worry won. You forgot, she said. I forgot. I'm sorry. I've been distracted lately, and that's not an excuse, but it's an explanation, and I'm really sorry. She studied him. MJ had always been able to see through his deflections, spot the lies he told to protect his secret life. Something happened 3 weeks ago. You've been different since then. Distant, like you're seeing something the rest of us can't. Peter stopped. He couldn't tell her about the Enterprise. Couldn't explain that he'd visited the future, and now the present felt unbearable. I'm just dealing with some Spider-Man stuff. Big picture stuff. It's hard to explain. Try. They walked, finding a bench overlooking the river. Peter wrestled with how much to say, how to share the weight without revealing the specifics. What if I told you, Peter said carefully, that I learned something that changed how I see everything? That I know for certain humanity can be better, not just theoretically better, but provably better. And now I can't stop thinking about how far we have to go. MJ processed this. You had some kind of vision, prophecy, something like that. And now every time I do my Spider-Man thing, I'm thinking, this is temporary. This is just treating symptoms. The real work is changing the systems that create these problems in the first place. But I don't know how to do that. I'm just one guy in a mask who can punch hard and stick to walls. So work with people who can change systems, MJ said pragmatically. You know Stark. You know other Avengers. You have connections to people with actual power and resources. Use them. It's not that simple. It never is. But Peter, you can't carry the entire world's problems alone. That's not responsibility. That's martyrdom. If you've seen something that shows humanity can be better, then your job is to share that vision, inspire people, make them believe it's possible. She took his hand. You don't have to build utopia yourself. You just have to help. Peter's spider sense tingled. Not danger, but significance. MJ had just articulated exactly what Picard, Data, and Troy had been trying to tell him. He didn't have to save the world alone. He just had to contribute. You're right, Peter said. You're absolutely right. I need to... His comm badge chirped. Tony's voice came through, tense. Peter, suit up. We have a situation. Warehouse District, West Side. Something weird. Weird how? Dimensional energy signatures weird. Like someone else is trying to open a rift. Get here now. Peter was already moving. MJ, I have to... Go. Save the day. But Peter... She caught his arm. Whatever you saw, whatever you learned, don't let it paralyze you. Let it motivate you. He kissed her quickly, then was web swinging across the city, his spider sense guiding him toward the warehouse district, where Iron Man's signature was already registering on his HUD. The warehouse was old, abandoned, covered in graffiti and decay. But inside, someone had built something that made Peter's spider sense scream. A machine cobbled together from stolen tech, black market parts, and what looked suspiciously like Stark Industries components, was generating a field that tasted wrong to his enhanced senses. Tony's armor gleamed in the dim light, his repulsors trained on 3 figures working the machine. They looked up as Spider-Man crashed through a window, his entrance typically dramatic and totally unnecessary since there was a door. Spider-Man! Tony's voice was tight. These 3 geniuses are trying to replicate the dimensional rift that transported us. They've been tracking unusual energy readings, reverse engineering the signature, and they're about 30 seconds from tearing a hole in reality. We know what you did, one of the figures said. A woman, mid-30s, with the manic intensity of someone who'd been working without sleep for weeks. 3 weeks ago, you both vanished for 4 hours. Dimensional displacement. You went somewhere. We detected the rift closure, analyzed the residual signatures, and we rebuilt it. We deserve to see what you saw. Ma'am, you really don't want to do that, Peter said, moving to flank them. Dimensional travel is incredibly dangerous. We barely survived it. And whoever you might encounter on the other side might have technology we can use, might have solutions to our world's problems. You came back with upgrades, Stark. Our sensors detected the modifications to your armor. Federation technology, if the energy signatures are right. You visited the Star Trek universe and you're keeping it secret. Tony and Peter exchanged glances. Someone had been paying very close attention. Someone smart enough to decode dimensional signatures and crazy enough to try replicating them. Friday, Tony murmured. Can they actually open a rift? Negative, boss. Their equipment is functional, but grossly underpowered. They'd need the arc reactor's output amplified by a factor of 50 to generate a stable rift. What they're going to generate is an unstable dimensional tear that will implode and probably take out this entire city block. So, we're on a countdown to disaster. Great. My favorite kind of Tuesday. Peter's spider sense screamed. The machine was building toward critical. "Mr. Stark, we need to shut this down now." "Working on it." Tony's repulsors charged. "Ma'am, last chance. Power down your C-Continue machine or I power it down for you. You can't stop progress. You can't hoard the future." She activated the machine. Reality screamed. The dimensional tear opened. Not a stable rift like Q had created, but a jagged wound that immediately began expanding. Through it, Peter could see something. Not the Enterprise, not the Federation's clean, peaceful reality. Something darker, something wrong. His spider sense exploded with warning. Whatever was on the other side of that tear was looking back, and it was hungry. "Friday, full power to repulsors. We need to collapse that rift." "On it." Tony's arc reactor flared, channeling maximum output through his weapon systems. Twin beams of concentrated energy slammed into the dimensional tear. Peter web-slung toward the machine, his enhanced strength letting him rip components free even as electricity arced around him. "Shut it down! Shut it down now!" The woman at the controls was screaming, her hands moving frantically over interfaces that were no longer responding. "I can't. It's cascading. The feedback is..." Something reached through the rift. Not a hand. Something worse. A tendril of darkness that existed in too many dimensions simultaneously, that hurt to look at directly, that Peter's spider sense identified as absolutely lethal. "Everyone down." Peter grabbed the three scientists, yanking them away from the machine as Tony's repulsor beams intersected with the dimensional tear. The resulting explosion was contained by Tony's shields, but the force still sent everyone flying. The rift collapsed. The machine exploded into sparking fragments, and silence descended, broken only by alarms and groaning. Peter checked the scientists, bruised, terrified, but alive. Tony landed beside him, his armor's systems running damage diagnostics. "What the hell was that?" Peter asked. "Friday?" "Unknown, boss. The rift opened to somewhere that definitely wasn't the Federation's universe. Different dimensional frequency entirely. Whatever was on the other side, it wasn't friendly." Tony turned to the woman who'd built the machine. "You wanted to see what I saw? You wanted access to the future? Congratulations. You almost let something through that would have killed everyone in this city. Dimensional travel isn't a game. It's not something you experiment with in an abandoned warehouse. And it's not something I'm going to let anyone else attempt. But you have the knowledge, the technology, which I'm keeping secure until humanity is ready to handle it responsibly. And clearly," Tony gestured at the smoking ruins of the machine, "we're not there yet." Peter's comm badge chirped again, but this time it wasn't Tony's voice. It was static. No, something else. A signal bleeding through dimensional barriers, faint but present. "Ter Parker, Tony Stark. If you're receiving this, certain anomaly in your timeline, signatures consistent with attempted dimensional breach, advise extreme caution. Rifts are dangerous. Tell out." Data's voice, impossibly from the 24th century, warning them. Tony and Peter stared at each other. "They're monitoring us," Peter whispered. "The Enterprise crew. They're watching, making sure we're okay." Not watching, helping. They gave us the comm badges to communicate with each other, but they're also receivers. They can send brief warnings through the dimensional barrier when they detect problems. Tony looked at the smoking machine. "Which means they saw this. Saw us almost make a catastrophic mistake." The woman was being zip-tied by Spider-Man's webs, her cohorts similarly contained. But she was still talking, still insisting she had a right to see the future, to access the knowledge that could change everything. Peter crouched beside her. "Ma'am, I understand. I really do. I've seen what humanity can become, and it's beautiful. But we can't force the journey. Can't skip the steps. We have to earn the Federation, one choice at a time, one generation at a time. Trying to cheat that process, it doesn't work. It just creates disasters. So what? We just accept that our world is broken? That we live in poverty and war while you've seen paradise? No. We work to fix it. But we do it the right way. The hard way." Peter stood, looking at Tony. "We share the inspiration, not the shortcuts. We help people believe humanity can be better, and we trust them to get there." Police sirens approached. Tony had already anonymously called them. Reported the illegal experiment. The 3 scientists would face charges, probably minor ones given they hadn't actually succeeded in anything except nearly destroying themselves. As Tony and Peter web-slung and flew away from the warehouse, Peter's mind was racing. "Mr. Stark, how many others do you think figured out what we did? How many people are trying to replicate the rift?" Friday's been monitoring for dimensional signature scans. These 3 were the only ones close to succeeding. But you're right, it's a problem. We can't stop everyone from trying, and eventually someone's going to succeed. So what do we do? Tony was quiet for a long moment. We get ahead of it. We control the narrative. We go public. Not with everything. Not with the fact that we visited the actual Enterprise. But with the idea that humanity can be better. That we've seen proof it's possible. We inspire people to work toward it the right way instead of taking dangerous shortcuts. You want to tell the world about the Federation? I want to tell the world about hope. About the fact that our problems aren't permanent. That if we make the right choices, we can build something beautiful. And we do it before someone else tears reality apart trying to find proof. Peter's spider sense hummed with approval. This was right. This was what Picard would do. Trust people with the truth. Let them choose to be better. "When?" Peter asked. "Soon, very soon. But first, we need allies. We need to bring in the other Avengers, people we trust. Make sure we're presenting this the right way." Tony's arc reactor pulsed. "Kid, we're about to change everything. Are you ready?" Peter thought about Uncle Ben, about responsibility, about Picard, about infinite diversity, about Q's test, about whether humanity would choose to be better, about MJ's advice to inspire rather than carry the world alone. "Yeah," Peter said. "I'm ready. Let's give them hope." And somewhere, impossibly far away in space and time, on the bridge of the USS Enterprise, Captain Jean-Luc Picard received a report about dimensional anomalies in a 21st century timeline. He read it carefully, noted that the 2 displaced heroes had prevented a catastrophe, and smiled. "They're doing well," he told Data. "Indeed, Captain. It appears our faith in them was warranted." "Humanity," Picard said, looking out at the stars, "always finds a way, even when the path is difficult, especially then. And in 2 universes, separated by centuries and dimensions, people who believed in a better future began the long, hard work of making it real." Avengers Tower, 2 days later. The conference room held an unusual assembly. Steve Rogers sat with his arms crossed, his expression thoughtful. Bruce Banner leaned against the wall, already having heard enough to trigger his scientific curiosity. Natasha Romanoff watched from the corner with the silent assessment of someone evaluating a threat. Thor occupied 2 chairs with his bulk, his interest evident. And at the head of the table, Tony Stark stood with Peter Parker beside him, a holographic display floating between them and their audience. "Let me get this straight," Steve said slowly. 3 weeks ago, you accidentally opened a dimensional rift, traveled to the 24th century, met the crew of the Starship Enterprise, learned that humanity eventually creates a peaceful utopian federation, and came back with advanced technology and knowledge that could change our timeline. That's the short version, yes, Tony confirmed. And you're telling us this now because someone else tried to replicate your accident and nearly destroyed Manhattan. Also, yes. Steve looked at Peter. Is he having a mental breakdown, or did this actually happen? Peter pulled out his Starfleet comm badge, setting it on the table. The device pulsed with faint energy. It happened, Captain Rogers. We stood on the Enterprise bridge. We met Captain Picard, Commander Data, Lieutenant Commander LaForge. We saw a future where Earth has no poverty, no war, no scarcity, where humanity explores the galaxy in peace. Bruce pushed off the wall, his scientific mind already engaging. Dimensional travel. That's theoretically possible. But the energy requirements would be astronomical. Tony, your arc reactor got a major upgrade from 24th century engineers, yes. Friday, show them the comparative specs. The holographic display shifted, showing Tony's arc reactor before and after the Enterprise modifications. Bruce's eyes widened as he processed the data. That's a 40% efficiency increase using principles I don't even recognize. Tony, this is incredible. The applications are exactly why we're being careful about how we introduce this knowledge, Tony interrupted. Bruce, they gave us medical data that could cure diseases we're still struggling with. Energy technology that could eliminate fossil fuels. Agricultural techniques that could end hunger. Everything we need to jumpstart our evolution toward the Federation. Then why haven't you released it? Natasha asked, her voice carrying tactical assessment. If you have solutions, why hold them back? Because information without infrastructure is chaos, Peter explained. If we release medical cures without the distribution systems to deliver them equitably, we create new inequalities. If we give energy technology to governments still invested in oil economics, we crash global markets. We have to be strategic. Thor leaned forward, his divine perspective offering different concerns. You speak of a future, but the future is not written, friends. I have walked timelines that no longer exist, seen Asgards that never were. This Federation you describe, it is one possibility, not certainty. Exactly, Tony said. Which is why we're here. The Enterprise crew made it clear. The Federation wasn't inevitable. It was earned through millions of individual choices across centuries. Our timeline could become that, or it could diverge into something else entirely. What we do now matters. Steve's expression shifted to something more engaged. You're not asking us to help you release this technology. You're asking us to help shepherd humanity toward making the right choices to reach that future naturally. Gold star for Captain America, Tony said. We can't force evolution, can't skip steps, but we can inspire. We can share the vision of what's possible and trust people to work toward it. That's a lot of faith in humanity, Natasha observed. It's what the Federation was built on, Peter said. Captain Picard told us they almost destroyed themselves first. World War III, 2026 to 2053. 600 million dead. Earth nearly uninhabitable. But in the aftermath, they chose differently. Chose cooperation over competition. And within a century, they were exploring the stars. The room was silent. Steve processed timelines, strategies, the weight of trying to guide civilization without controlling it. Bruce calculated probabilities and applications. Natasha evaluated threats and opportunities. Thor contemplated destiny and choice. "Show us," Steve finally said. "Show us what you brought back. Let us see what humanity can become." Tony activated the data repository Riker had given them. Holographic displays filled the room. Medical schematics, engineering principles, diplomatic frameworks, agricultural innovations. Not complete enough to implement immediately, but detailed enough to inspire. Seeds of knowledge that could grow into solutions if planted carefully. Bruce moved through the medical data with growing wonder. This treatment for Parkinson's, it's elegant. It works with the body's natural systems instead of against them. And the cancer therapies, they're targeting cellular mechanisms we've barely begun to understand. Tony, even introducing these concepts could accelerate our research by decades, which is exactly what we want to do. Accelerate, not skip. Give our scientists the inspiration to discover these things themselves, rather than just handing them completed solutions. "And the energy technology?" Steve asked, examining the engineering principles. "Fusion power, matter-antimatter reactions, efficient solar collection, all things we're already researching," Tony explained. "But their approaches are more refined. If I publish papers suggesting these refinements as theoretical improvements, other scientists can build on them. We advance the field without revealing we're working from a cheat sheet." Natasha studied the diplomatic frameworks. These conflict resolution protocols, they assume good faith from all parties. That's not realistic in our current geopolitical climate. "Not yet," Peter agreed. "But that's what we work toward. Small changes, building trust between nations, creating systems where cooperation benefits everyone more than competition. It's generational work." "You're talking about fundamentally restructuring global society," Steve said. "That's not a 10-year project. That's a century of effort." "Which is why we need help," Tony said. "The Avengers have global reach, credibility, resources. If we coordinate, if we work together to model cooperation, to demonstrate that working toward common good produces better results than self-interest, we can accelerate the cultural shift." Thor stood, his presence commanding. "In Asgard, we have watched Midgard for millennia. We have seen your potential and your failures. This federation you describe, it is worthy of your species. It honors what humanity could become. I will aid this quest." "I'm in," Bruce said immediately. "The scientific applications alone make this worthwhile. But more than that, Tony, you're talking about using knowledge to eliminate suffering. That's what science should do. I want to help." Natasha was harder to read. "I'll need to see more details. Understand the risks, the potential for this technology to be weaponized or abused. But if you can convince me the safeguards are adequate, I'll contribute. The world could use fewer reasons for conflict." All eyes turned to Steve. Captain America stood, moving to the window overlooking New York. The city sprawled below, millions of people living, struggling, hoping. He'd fought for this country, this world, since 1941. Had seen humanity at its worst and best. Had believed, against all evidence, that people could choose to be better. "When I went into the ice," Steve said quietly, "I thought I was fighting to preserve the world as it was. When I woke up, I realized the world keeps changing whether we want it to or not. The question isn't whether change happens. It's whether we guide it or let it happen to us." He turned to face them. "You're asking us to guide humanity toward a better future, to believe that people, given hope and opportunity, will choose cooperation over conflict." That's what I've always believed, what I've always fought for. So you're in? Peter asked hopefully. I'm in. But Peter, Tony, we do this the right way. We don't manipulate. We don't deceive. We inspire, we support, and we trust people to make their own choices. The Federation was built on that foundation. If we compromise those principles to reach it faster, we're building something else. Agreed, Tony said. Total transparency with ourselves, strategic inspiration for everyone else. We don't claim to have visited the future. That makes us sound insane. We present these ideas as innovations we've developed, refinements we've discovered. We model the behavior we want to see. And when people ask where the inspiration came from, Natasha asked. We tell them the truth, Peter said, that we believe humanity can be better, that we've seen evidence it's possible. We don't have to explain the Enterprise to share its message. Friday interrupted. Boss, incoming communication on the Starfleet comm badge frequency. It's faint, but it's definitely a transmission from the 24th century. Everyone tensed. Tony activated the comm badge, and Data's voice filled the room, distorted by dimensional static, but unmistakable. Mr. Stark, Mr. Parker, this is Commander Data aboard the Enterprise. We detected your recent dimensional crisis and are pleased you resolved it successfully. Captain Picard asked me to convey a message. Trust your allies. Share the burden. The Federation was built by teams, not individuals. You are not alone in this work. Static increased. Additionally, I wish to express, I believe the appropriate human phrase is good luck. Your choice to inspire rather than impose demonstrates understanding of the principles that make the Federation possible. We have faith in your success. Data out. The transmission ended. The room was silent. That was an android from the future, Bruce said slowly. From the actual future. Tony, Peter, this isn't theoretical. This is real. Yeah, Tony said, his arc reactor pulsing. It's real. The Federation exists. We've seen it. And now we have to earn it for our timeline. Steve's expression was determined. Then let's get to work. What's the first step? Tony pulled up a presentation he'd been preparing. We start with the Stark Foundation. I'm going to announce a series of initiatives focused on clean energy research, medical advancement, and international cooperation. Not technology giveaways, research grants, collaborative projects, seed funding for innovations that push humanity in the right direction. We inspire other companies, other governments to join. Make cooperation competitive. I'll work with SHIELD and international agencies, Natasha said. Promote diplomatic frameworks that reduce conflict. Not the Federation's exact protocols, we're not ready for that. But incremental improvements, better communication, neutral arbitration, mutual benefits. I'll focus on scientific outreach, Bruce offered. Publish papers that introduce Federation-inspired concepts without revealing their source. Give our brightest minds the seeds of ideas that could grow into breakthroughs. And I'll speak publicly about the potential for human unity, Steve said. Use my platform to promote the idea that cooperation produces better results than division. Model the behavior we want to encourage. What about me? Peter asked. I'm just a college student. I don't have platforms or resources or... You have something more important, Steve interrupted. You have street-level connection to normal people. You're Spider-Man, the friendly neighborhood hero. You represent the idea that anyone can make a difference, that helping others matters. Your example, Peter, might be more powerful than anything the rest of us can do. Peter's spider sense hummed with significance. So I keep being Spider-Man. Keep saving people, stopping crime, showing that every person matters. And when you do college outreach, when you talk to kids, when you're just Peter Parker, you share the hope, Tony added. You tell them the world can be better, that their choices matter, that humanity has incredible potential if we choose to reach for it. Thor raised an imaginary glass. To the Federation, may Midgard earn its place among the stars. They spent the next 6 hours planning, coordinating initiatives, identifying opportunities, mapping out a decades-long strategy to guide humanity toward a Federation ideals without forcing the evolution. It was ambitious, probably impossible. But they'd all done impossible things before. As the meeting broke up, as the Avengers departed to begin their respective roles in reshaping civilization, Tony and Peter remained. Kid, you know this might not work, right? Tony said. We might try everything we can and still fail. Our timeline might never become the Federation. Or it might become something even better, Peter countered. The Federation's path was theirs. Ours will be different. But knowing it's possible, knowing we've seen humanity at its best, that's enough to make the fight worthwhile. Tony's comm badge pulsed faintly, a reminder that somewhere across dimensions and centuries, the Enterprise crew was watching, hoping, believing in them. Friday, open a secure file. Classification, eyes only. Title, The Federation Project. File created, boss. Begin log entry. Tony Stark recording. Today, we began the work of building a better future. Not because we have to, not because it's easy, but because we've seen what humanity can become. And we believe our timeline deserves the chance to get there. This is generational work. We won't live to see its completion. But every life we save, every conflict we prevent, every innovation we inspire, it all compounds. Peter and I visited the 24th century. We met the people who proved humanity can evolve beyond its worst impulses. Now we come home to ensure our timeline can too. End log. Peter pulled out his phone, texting MJ. You were right. Shared the vision, building the team, changing the world one choice at a time. Thanks for the advice. Her response came immediately. You're welcome. Now come home. You promised movie night, and I'm holding you to it. Peter smiled. Normal life, reasserting itself. Spider-Man responsibilities, college classes, dating MJ, helping Aunt May. The work of building the Federation would happen alongside all of that, not instead of it, the extraordinary woven into the ordinary. Mr. Stark, I should go. MJ's waiting and I'm already late. Go, live your life, kid. That's what the Federation's about. People having the freedom to just exist without constant crisis. You're modeling the future by being happy in the present. Peter web-slung toward the window, then paused. You know what Captain Picard said to me right before we left? He said the measure of civilization isn't power or technology. It's how we treat the least among us, how we extend dignity, opportunity, and hope to everyone. We're not building the Federation's ships and tech. We're building its values. When did you get so wise, Parker? I learned from an emotionally constipated genius with a glowing chest and unresolved daddy issues. Get out of my tower. But Peter was laughing as he swung into the New York night, his spider sense guiding him home, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. They had a plan. They had allies. They had hope based on evidence. The Federation was possible. And Tony Stark and Peter Parker, along with Earth's mightiest heroes, were going to help humanity earn it. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one person at a time. The dimensional rift had closed permanently months ago. The quantum bridge between timelines collapsed into probability and memory. But its impact rippled forward through time in ways both measurable and immeasurable. Tony Stark stood in his workshop, the Starfleet comm badge mounted on his wall like a talisman. The data repository from the 24th century sat encrypted in Friday's deepest systems, parceled out in careful doses, a medical insight here, an engineering principle there, always framed as innovation rather than revelation. The work of decades compressed into moments of inspiration that he released like seeds, trusting them to grow. Peter Parker swung through Queens, his spider sense humming with its usual warnings and alerts. But underneath it all, a steady pulse of hope. He'd seen the future, knew it was real. And every person he saved, every kid he inspired, every moment he chose responsibility over convenience, it all compounded towards something larger than himself. The Federation wouldn't arrive in their lifetimes, might not arrive for centuries, but it would arrive, earned through millions of individual choices to cooperate instead of compete, to share instead of hoard, to believe in humanity's potential despite overwhelming evidence of its flaws. They'd visited paradise and returned to reality, but they'd brought something precious back with them, proof that reality could become paradise, given enough time and enough people willing to work toward it. The Enterprise sailed on through its own timeline, its crew exploring strange new worlds, seeking out new life and new civilizations, boldly going where no one had gone before. And somewhere in their historical databases, a footnote about two displaced heroes from a primitive timeline who had visited briefly, learned quickly, and returned home to begin the long work of evolution. Captain Picard never deleted that file, never shared it beyond his senior staff. But occasionally, in quiet moments, he would read it and smile, reminded that the Federation's ideals, infinite diversity, peaceful exploration, the belief that civilization could transcend its worst impulses, resonated across dimensions and centuries. Because they were human ideals, and humans, given hope and opportunity, would always reach for something better. In New York, in the 21st century, on an Earth still struggling with poverty and war and injustice, two heroes continued their work. Not alone, never alone, but alongside allies who shared their vision. Supported by movements they'd inspired, building toward a future they'd seen. The comm badges on their chests pulsed faintly, quantum anchors to a reality they'd visited and a promise they'd made. To try, to believe, to never stop working toward the day when humanity would look up at the stars not as conquerors or explorers, but as neighbors ready to join a community of peaceful civilizations. That day would come. Peter and Tony had seen it. And until it did, they would fight, inspire, innovate, and hope. Because that's what heroes did. That's what humans did. That's what the Federation, centuries in the future, proved was possible. And knowing it was possible made every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt worth enduring. The work continued. The dream persisted. The future waited, patient and inevitable, for the present to catch up. Spider-Man and Iron Man, alongside Earth's mightiest heroes, would make sure it did. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one step closer to the stars.